Hello and welcome back to the Ableton 11 overview. This basically in this course is we're going through the very basics of Ableton to get you started making music as soon as possible. In this next bit, we're going to go through very quickly what some of these things do at the top of the bar here of Ableton. Some of these will be relevant and some of these I will skip over for you to learn by yourself, simply because they're just not used sometimes day to day, and I want to get you making music as quickly as possible. If you're ever stuck and you want to learn a particular function in Ableton, or you forget what that function does, an easy way to figure out what that function does for that particular thing, so that particular button or whatever you're trying to click, is to just hover your mouse over the thing you want to click and find out more about. And if you look down the bottom left hand corner, you'll see this little window here that tells you what that function does. So, for instance, if we head over to the BPM here, and it will tell you down the bottom there, it says it's the tempo. And that's where we're going to also start our orientation for this lesson. First off, you've got your tempo, and this denotes the speed of your track. So if you are making a house track, you would want your tempo to be somewhere between 115 and 130. If you're making a dubstep track, then you probably want to have it a little bit higher to 140 or 150 BPM. If you're making a drum and bass track, usually it's around about 170. If you're making an R&B track, usually R&B tracks are around about 90 or 100, a bit slower for those slow dances. That's probably the first thing you need to set when you're making a new track, is to denote how fast you want your track to be. If you've got an idea in your head, the best way to figure out the BPM of a track is to hum it in your head and then count the beats in the track by tapping this little button right next to the tempo, which allows you to tap the speed of your track, and you'll notice here how the tempo on the right side of my mouse is changing the tempo of a track. So right now I'm trying to keep it as steady as possible. So it's here at that 97, 98 mark. If we go a bit quicker, we're obviously tapping a little bit quicker now, so the BPM is increasing. However, usually when we're making electronic music, your BPM should be set to an even number. You can have it at 107, but I mean the really fine BPM meter, those two on the right side, the 0 and the 0, you don't want to really make increments that small. It'll just screw up DJs who are trying to play your songs out. So try and keep it as an even 137, 138, 0, 0. Next, we're going to move to the metronome. The metronome basically just counts your track. This helps if you are having a singer or you don't have the kicks or the snares in your track to count time for you. So if you're doing, say, pads, or you're doing a little bit of atmosphere in the background, a metronome can help you keep the timing if you're playing the track live. For instance, if you're playing it on a guitar, or if you're playing it on a keyboard or a hardware synth or anything like that that's connected to your digital workstation, this will help you keep time. Next, we'll move over to your play and stop functions. So here you have the play button, and right next to it you have the stop button. So if you ever want to start and stop a track, all you have to do is press this play button and it will start playing your track, and obviously the stop button to stop playing it. On the next one is your record function, which we'll go over in a later lesson on how to record, but that is your record button. Moving across here, we have the draw mode, allows you to draw automations into your DAW. If you press the button A on your keyboard, it will allow you to make automations on your track. As we've already clicked the draw mode switch, we head over to the automation here, and then we start to draw our automations in very quickly. Now, the function I am actually adjusting here is whether or not this track is on and off. So if we head over and we actually put in an instrument, and we head to volume, you can easily see we have a little bit more creativity now, because it's not just a simple off or on switch. Lots of different settings. We can draw in our automation here of where the track goes, and obviously that's just for volume, and you can do anything with that. We can change all of these other settings here inside the instrument, and then we can just draw them on here. The next function is your computer MIDI keyboard. Basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to play notes on your keyboard. So right now you can see these little yellow buttons here, lights activating. That's because I'm pressing keys on my keyboard. So it allows you to use your keyboard as a piano keyboard. Let's move on to tracks. On the right hand side here, we have our audio and MIDI tracks. I'll go into in a further lesson the difference between an audio and MIDI track is, but basically, short version is it's where you put all of the different sounds. The yellow button here is your on and off switch. So if we click this, the channel is now off. It won't play anything. However, if we click it again and it goes yellow, it means that the track is on. Underneath it is our volume. So minus infinity means it's completely zero. Minus 40 up all the way up to plus 6. 0 doesn't mean zero noise is going to come through. 0 means unity, which is basically it's not adding any volume and it's not subtracting any volume from that track. So 0 doesn't mean 0 volume. The C here means the panning of the track. So you can pan it left and right if you change it on your mouse or if you go up and down on your keyboard. This S button here is your solo track. What this allows you to do is it allows you to isolate this channel and allows you to listen to this channel by itself. So if you have lots of different tracks here that are playing and you only want to hear this particular track play, you can solo the track by pressing this S here and all you're going to hear is that track. What this button here is arm recording. We'll go into this a little bit further in a later lesson, but the short version is you need this button on in order to record to this channel. Next here is we've got our send and return tracks. So if we push this number up, it means that we're going to be sending to our return track down below here, the reverb and the delay. These are already going to be in your DAW ready to go, but for now we're going to keep them at 0 until we learn more about return tracks. On your left hand side here is all of our sound settings for that particular channel. If we want to record something, we're going to need to know where the recording is coming from. So this will be used later on a further lesson about recording. Finally, if you want to get a little bit more technical, you've got your delay here. You're probably wondering why I want a track to hit less or more milliseconds after the needle passes it. Is it going to be out of time? Yes, it is going to be out of time by those milliseconds. There are reasons for that, many different reasons. In short, you don't need to know this for now if you just want to start making beats, but it's something to consider later on as you go further in your skills. We're going to move over to the left hand side of our screen here, and we're going to have all of our categories here of different instruments and sounds and drums that we can add to Ableton to make our track. So we have all of our different sounds, which I won't go through because they're pretty self-explanatory of what type of sounds they are. Then we have our drums. You're going to need all types of different drums for whatever track you're going to be using, from snares to kicks to hi-hats, all of that is in there. Then we move down to instruments. We have all the different Ableton stock instruments in there. We use audio effects for all different reasons, from distorting the sound to EQing the sound to compressing the sound. We've got all different reasons why we would use the different effects in here. Here we have our MIDI effects, where we have all the different effects that we can add onto our MIDI channels. We won't go into them now. We'll come back to them later. Here we have Max Live, which allows you to build your own audio effects and instruments and tools for live performances and other things as well. Again, you don't really need to know much about that at this time if you're just beginning. There's a whole bunch of other stuff you need to learn before you get to that stage. Next up, we got plugins, which is all the different third-party software that you can buy for your digital audio workstation. We won't go into this particular aspect right now, but down the track you will be buying multiple different types of plugins for your DAW, stuff that does it better than Ableton. Not to say Ableton stock plugins are bad, it's just there are a lot of plugins out there that do really cool things. Clips are all the different audio clips that you can use for your project. Samples, again, different samples you can use for your project. Next up we have our grooves, and what this allows us to do is add a little bit of humanization to our loops. It basically is like a MIDI clip with the information of the velocity and the timing, and it quantizes all of our drum samples according to the settings that you give it, basically. And templates are simply just templates that you can create in Ableton to make your workflow a little bit quicker, so you don't have to recreate the same stuff over and over again. Now that we've finished categories, we have our places, and this is just basically where we store all of our own samples, our own loops, all of our own clips, and you can add folders as well by clicking the add folder button here, and you can add in I've named it music stuff, MIDI clips, construction packs, remixes, so any sort of remix packs that you get or you download. And then you can also create favorite folders as well with all your favorite loops and all your favorite samples that you want to keep using again for your tracks to speed up that track creation time. On the right hand side here, we have our reverb and delay tracks. Basically what these are, they are return tracks. If you've never used return tracks before, basically what you do is return tracks are where you send an audio signal to this particular track. It adds the effects that are in that channel. So you see how there's a reverb channel here. It's on on this track, it's a reverb. So the audio from here will get sent to this reverb here, and then it will get sent on to the master, depending on how you've set it up. Or it will send it back to the audio with that particular effect on it. Again, it always depends on how you set it up, whether you're sending it to the master or back to the audio channel or back to a group. Here we have our master. This is where all of the information from all of our other tracks that are in our project go. So on our master channel, we can change and add different audio effects to it. We can add compression, we can limit the volume, we can pan it, we can do pretty much anything we want to do with the track like we've done with our previous channels, except it's overriding absolutely everything in your project because this is the last channel before you go to bump your track out to an audio file. On this channel, you'll put on all your mastering effects, your EQing, your compression, and put on the final touches to your track before you're ready to finish it.